in policy and strategic studies. With a diverse background and certifications, he has led projects in multinational companies, focusing on management systems improvement and business process reengineering. As Principal CEO of Innovationeering Limited, he drives innovation and value creation through multidisciplinary approaches. His extensive business acumen adds a unique dimension to his contributions, making him a valuable asset to any discussion on incivility in business. Ladies and gentlemen, Engineer Emeka Iluegbunam.
Thank you. And the fifth, but not the last, is Daniel Black.
Daniel Black is a passionate advocate for youth development and sustainable agriculture in Nigeria. He collaborates with NGOs to design intervention projects like the Na Who Go Vote Chop, Na Who Vote Go Chop campaign and the Mparenin Agricultural Revolution project, focusing on empowering young people and promoting sustainable agriculture. Currently, Daniel serves as the national head of the Yali Network Nigeria, leading efforts to empower young leaders and drive positive change across the nation. Additionally, he is the executive director of Growth for Sustainable Agriculture Initiative, where he promotes environmentally friendly farming methods and improves food security in rural communities. Daniel Black's dedication and innovative approach are making a significant impact on the future of Nigeria and the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Black.
Thank you very much. We'll delve right into our conversation. Today's theme, like we all know it to be, the impact of incivility on Africa's development. A very close look at the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 and the AU Agenda 2063 posits that by the year 2030, the world will be a better place, the world will be prosperous for all, would all live in harmony. And the AU Agenda says that by 2063, Africa as a continent will be united with 7 aspirations: free access to our borders, and a huge reliance on self-potential. It's very important that the aim of these ambitious goals lies in us, we the Africans. And so this conversation is really important as it will cut across conversations on youth development, business development, values, security, and of course, how we can all jump on what's really important, on this very critical discussion on how by 2063, is it possible that Africa as a continent will be one? Is it possible that by 2063, we'll be united as a country, as a continent, we'll have access to our free borders, and all of us in Africa, without leaving anyone behind, will all be part of the conversation to say, yes, we made it happen. Is it possible? And of course, the ambitious goals of 2030. Is it possible that by 2030, we as Nigerians staying in this room today, is it possible that by 2030, we'll see some level of progress? Zero poverty, zero hunger, affordable electricity, equality, good formal education for all. Is it possible? These conversations will spur this discourse and would take us into reflection on the possibilities that we can bear as human beings, as individuals in driving change. So please, permit me, indulge me, to start with Madam Christie. You have an amazing wealth of experience in human capacity development, and that has seen you train thousands of people. You've interfaced with people across various sectors. How would you say, in your own experience, how has incivility been a major decline in attaining development in terms of business, in terms of human capacity development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to acknowledge with a deep sense of humility the great work that Eti is doing here. The concept of etiquette in all aspects of human endeavor or all aspects of life is something that should be central. And I think she's doing great for a young person who has taken up this challenge to get all of us whipped into line as far as etiquette is concerned. But it's even greater to see that she's trying to transpose it onto the African continent, not just Nigeria, but Africa. Because more than anything else, the richest, and I don't like to say potentially richest, continent is that of Africa. We have the materials, we have the human, we have all sorts of things that God has endowed us with. But in terms of the development index, we're low down there. I'm sure His Excellency, the Ambassador, in all his travels would have seen that it's a sad reality, but we hope that with efforts like this, we can reposition Africa. Well, the dysfunction in the development of Africa is largely because we're not talking with one voice. I'll use that as a phrase to gird my discussions. I'd like to hinge my discussions on communication, effective communication, because what breeds dissension, what breeds wars, is when people don't talk to each other in the right way. All the wars in the world start from ineffective communication. Let's think through it. People will say, oh, it's about resources, but you can discuss your resources in a way that it could be a win-win situation. But at the base of every conflict is a lack of communication, effective communication. So we see that in the world we've had since about 1950, let's situate it in history, we've had about 500, a little less than 500 different coups. And of these, Africa has witnessed 220 by the last count. Some of these have not been successful, but I think we've had like half of that being successful coups. When coups happen, it means that there's no continuity. And why do these coups happen? Oftentimes, again, because there's no proper communication between one government and its citizens, or one government and some quote-unquote cabals. And when these coups happen, they set the country back. Even when they succeed, you would still see that some basic institutions, especially like the legislature, would have been set aside. So some developments will not happen in the area of legislation. A few other things that are very critical for national development will not happen. And so when you put it, when you posit that along the development going on in the global system, you'll see why Africa really has come to be a continent known for undevelopment rather than development. But let's see, what elements of communication will breed the incivility that leads to this lack of development. If you're talking to someone and you assume that the person understands you, have you checked yourself whether you are saying it in the right way for the person to understand you? Are you also effectively listening to the person, whether what he or she is saying or whether what the body language is saying resonates with what you think you are saying? So there's a lot going into conversations. And oftentimes people will say conversations, some conversations are difficult, but difficult conversations must be had. We can't run away from them. And that's where we have another contribution to the lack of development in Africa. A lot of our, would I say, governance people are the runaway from critical conversations that must be made. There are critical conversations between them and the governed. They would not have that. And if we don't have that, we will not get to the bottom of some of the issues that would help propel us towards development. It was Winston Churchill who said, it's better to judge than to war. But in Africa, we'd rather war. And it's such a sad situation. Now, in terms of speaking effectively or communicating effectively, I think the last panel had done a lot of work, and I must say at this point that they make it easy for us, the subsequent panelists, because they've practically touched on every aspect of discussing civility and the concept of development in Africa. I think it was Dr. Linus that mentioned the issue of emotional intelligence. For you to communicate properly, you must have a self-awareness. You must have that confidence to say, what I'm about to say must add value or should add value. And so I'll be able to effectively influence the other person to my own side. Now, a lot of our leaders or people who are in the forefront of the development initiatives lack emotional intelligence. And so that's going forward, that's one area that we must invest in, both at individual levels and at corporate or national levels. It's the reason that some of our leaders in inter-African entities do not get it right. And so sometimes we say, oh, they do not like Nigeria, or it's xenophobic. Because sometimes the way we put ourselves across also puts us in that funny situation where people look down on us. If you're self-aware and you can self-regulate, then you will be able to at least put across your views in such a way that you'll get succinct respect, you will get collaborations or cooperation. So let's sell the idea of emotional intelligence, and that also inculcates effective communication. I'm not sure if I should go on talking. I wouldn't want to bore us. Let's move on to the next person, and then we can come back to my other perspectives. Thank you very much.
You're really apt in delivering this particular presentation, even though you had mentioned it has been said before, but you said it differently, and you communicated. Looking at the emphasis on communication, and what you said was really key. In fact, I read it somewhere some time ago that lack of communication indeed led to the Second World War. So I mean, I totally align with the perspective you gave on lack of communication, which is actually the base of every conflict. You also mentioned that conversations must be held. Legislation and governance is good, but still communication must be effective. You did mention and emphasize on self-awareness and regulation, which is really important. Self-awareness and regulation vis-a-vis in line with emotional intelligence. I mean, I'm pretty sure that we have all taken something very, very, very critical from what she has said today, which is really important, that communication indeed, effective communication can be a breather, a major source of civility to thrive, and actually tackle the issues of the decline of values, can actually tackle the issues of incivility. Thank you very much, madam. Dr. Kabir Adamu, you have extensive experience on security. You have also ushered Nigeria in several security transitions. Your work speaks for you in that light, in the issue of security, intelligence, and bringing to the fore on transitions that are possible to see to the fact that security is key and it's done in the right way. Looking at the concept today, the theme of this particular conference, how would you speak to the decline in values and the rise of criminality in Africa? Noting actually, that when it comes to the AU Agenda 2063, its emphasis is actually on our self-potential as Africans. So how would you speak to that? As Africans, how do you address decline of values and the rise of criminality.
Thank you very much. Let me also join virtually everyone, the panelists before me, in congratulating the convener. And I think more importantly, her mother, what she is actually a product of what the mother has been able to do. Let me also thank everyone who spared time to come to this event. No doubt, people go to events where they are expecting something, most times material. And in this instance, there's nothing material that will come out of this. So investing in it, especially by our students, is an indication that they are realizing the importance of something. As I think earlier on, I'm not sure if it's His Excellency, described etiquette as a non-physical activity. So whatever we get out of here is something that would go to our head and hopefully exemplify in terms of our activities. I've been asked a very loaded question with different components. And listening to the first panel, and I'm quite delighted that the National Orientation Agency is here. It has a new leadership. We've been told that it's come out with a new charter. Unfortunately, I think the person who spoke is not here, but I think his colleagues are here, so they would communicate this to him. In different fora that I have attended, the work of the National Orientation Agency has been highlighted as critical to shaping the future of this country. The earlier panel spoke a lot, and sitting down there, I tried to bring together a few pieces of what was said, and I think it's important for our students. What was said was a little bit high level, so we would need to break it down for our students to understand. Number one, who or what are the shapers of our value system as a country? I think it's important for, especially National Orientation Agency, if you understand the shapers of that value system in prompting a change, probably those are the shapers that you would be working with. So the family unit has been highlighted. Religious institutions have been highlighted. Educational institutions have been highlighted. The role of the community, traditional rulers. So this is not exhaustive. I would probably start with a research, conduct a survey to identify who are the shapers of this value system. So that once we know the shapers, as an example, not too long ago, and I'll get to your question, not too long ago, a Nigerian who was living in Dubai became a celebrity. He was living a large life. If I remember well, there was a musician who built a house with his hard-earned money. And that guy in Dubai came out and was making fun of him. It was a 3-bedroom house, and he was celebrating, the building of that house. And he laughed at him and said one of his shoes is worth more than the value of that house that he built. Now, surprisingly, a lot of our youths were following that guy as a model. And then, of course, later it turned out that what he was doing to earn that money with which he bought the shoe was illegal. Today, he's resting in prison. Now, how much of that have we as a society put forward to show that the long arm of the law will catch up with you and that there will be consequences for your action? Unfortunately, not so much. So one of the issues is that the deterrence element within our criminal justice system is no longer as effective as it used to be. People commit offenses, they are not arrested, and even where they are arrested, they are not punished. So unfortunately, people, especially young people, who see the large life that they live would want to emulate that large life. So these are the kind of things that I'm hoping the survey will bring out. Now, with regards to your question, with the relationship between value and criminality, a lot of what we understood growing up, by the way, I'm 2 years older than Linus that left earlier. If not here, I would have to welcome him to the 5th club. So a lot of what we learned growing up in terms of values, unfortunately, our young ones today don't see that, mainly because the deterrence element that I've been trying to describe has failed. New values have been quote unquote adopted, and so a lot of times that is what the young ones will try to emulate, so that they can also be in that light. And I think in this regard, our political system is also something that we need to address. The easiest way to get rich in Nigeria today is to get a political office position. Growing up, I wanted to be like my teacher, because that profession was valued. Everybody in that community respected that profession. I remember very well, teachers got gifts. They were valued. And so as a young child, you saw teaching as a profession. And today, I'm sure if I ask a lot of the students here to indicate what profession they would want to be, very few of them would want to do that. Now, tying it to the continent, it is what we do individually in countries that would determine the future of Africa. It is not the continent that would determine the future of the countries. The building blocks, especially the regional economic communities, they are the ones that would come together. If at all we're going to have a united Africa, that would create that united Africa. Thirdly, and again with all sense of responsibility, we're not doing well individually in our various countries. The largest country in Africa, Nigeria, I'm sure we're all feeling the brunt of the circumstances that we're in at the moment, and that is how in almost all the countries, I think very few countries in Africa are exemplary. As an example, although I don't even want to go into that debate, I wanted to use the example of Rwanda, but then there are issues that are coming up in Rwanda. And of course, the regional economic communities, ECOWAS is an example. ECOWAS is almost at the point of splintering. 3 countries have left. So I'm a bit worried about the future of the continent from the point of view of the question, the link between values and the security challenges that we're seeing. But we need to go back to those units, those shapers of our value system, from the family up to our institutions. Ask ourselves the critical question: why is it that we're failing from the family point of view up until those institutions that I've mentioned? Religious institutions, why is it that members of that revered institution today, unfortunately, are not playing their role? I remember growing up, of a particular religious sect where we're told that the leader in that religious sect made a pronouncement: if your source of income is questionable, do not contribute to the development of that particular religious institution. But today, I doubt if there's any religious sect or body in the country that makes such pronouncement. They pray, they advocate, and in fact, in very, very unique ways, encourage materialism without necessarily bringing the concept of value into that. Nothing is wrong with materialism. It helps improve the quality of life, the standard of life, but it must be thought in a manner that is acceptable. Most of what Ambassador Sarki said earlier on would guide that. But where you now go after wealth without those precepts that would tell you that you can only do it morally, quote unquote, then unfortunately something is wrong. Bottom line, and what I'm trying to say, is that most of the drivers of insecurity are rooted in the collapse of our value system. And if we don't correct that, then sadly there is not very much we're doing. And I would put it squarely on the shoulder of the National Orientation Agency. Their work is cut out for them. Without mincing my word, whatever happened in the last dispensation was a failure. And so if the current administration wants us to look back and say they did well, they have to avoid whatever the past administration. I know the issue of funding has come up severally, but you have an opportunity, and I'm begging you on behalf of everybody here to take up that opportunity, work with it, and let's see an outcome that is better than what happened.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. You made very key points. Talked about deterrence elements, and that seemed to be very akin to implementation. If there are no consequences, then there are no deterrents. People would feel they can do things and just walk away. Talked about the political system. You mentioned that the issues of development behoves on the individual and not the continent. And so when we're circling back to how we should be civil, the value system, it circles back to the individual and not the continent as a whole. You did also mention that as Nigerians, we are very plain, we're not doing well. And I think this is actually a charge to all of us, that we're not doing well, so it means we should all sit up and, do what is right. Talked about what's actually rooted in the collapse of the value system. You talked about it extensively on the values, and you kept on emphasizing on values, which is really important. And you did say that the NOA actually has a lot to do, and I'm sure the deputy director present here, she was taking notes. She's been nodding her head as you were speaking. I was noting she was nodding her head in agreement. So all you've said today, to nip it in the bud, Nigerians, we need to do better. Thank you very much for that. Madam Taiwo Isijola, you have done an amazing work. Looking at what you did as a young diplomat, strengthening the diplomatic relations between countries, and even at some point you even seconded to the White House for a bit. That has given you some good measures of lack. You understand what is lacking and what should be done. Looking at where you're coming from, how would you say that when it comes to Africans and tourism, for example, we know of the ban, the visa ban, the Dubai visa ban, and we have some countries who have also lifted their visa-free regulations on Nigerians. So how would you, from your experience, looking at your experience, where you're coming from, your diplomatic relations, strengthening that bond, looking at our tourism, looking at the visa bans we've experienced, circling back to the issues of incivility, how would you say that incivility has made an impact on Africans, and when it has to do with tourism as well? How would you say incivility has made an impact, given your experience?
Thank you very much, and I'd like to join my wonderful panelists in appreciating our convener. This conference is coming at a very critical time, where there's been a huge gap with values in Nigeria. Having worked with the diplomatic corps for 19 years, one of the things I observed that other international governments look at Nigeria is character deficit. For instance, if they're coming into a country, what they're expecting is courtesy, they're expecting structure, they're expecting orderliness. And when you come into a country and you don't have all of that, that actually discourages a lot of people coming into the country, even to invest or do business or whatever it is. So civility plays an important role. Our character, our attitude, our mannerisms, our courtesies, everything, it's a whole big issue altogether. So I think first and foremost, character is important. The way we interact with one another. Courtesy is important. Politeness is important. Protocols are important. So these are the things that the diplomatic and international governments really look at when they are engaging with Africa. Also, secondly, I'll talk about the issues of trust. There's already a negative image about Nigeria, but Nigeria is a fantastic country. We have what it takes. But it's just unfortunate that emphasis have been placed on making money, being wealthy, being flashy, rather than values, rather than etiquette, rather than politeness. So from the airports to the hotels to restaurants, people are always rude. Nobody smiles at you. When you go to a restaurant, they won't even listen to you. The waiters are completely distracted. All of these things, people come from different cultures. They want to go to nice restaurants, and you see rude waiters who are not even listening to you. You go to a hotel, and the customer care is having an attitude like, oh gosh, why are you wasting my time? All of these things have really eroded our image out there. If you go to the airports, that's a long story. We're even asking the attendants for directions, for information. Nobody listens to you. So it's very frustrating. Even us as Africans or Nigerians, even going to the airport, the way you're treated from the entrance to your final destination, you just can't wait to get to your final destination because you're already frustrated by the customer care. So all of these things matter. Character, courtesy, politeness, and that's why our agencies have to bring about a lot of social media jingles to really re-enlighten people that your mannerism, your courtesy, it's not even affecting you, but you have a country that you are actually embarrassing. So even from the airport, when people are coming in, think first, Nigeria. What are they going to think about us? But people don't really care. So there has to be a national ownership that as I represent myself at the airport, in hotels, I'm actually representing my country. So I think that should be a mindset shift moving forward. Thank you.
That was succinct, straight to the point, and you literally nipped it to the board. You drove home the point. Character. Character, character, character. Lack of courtesy, impoliteness, distraction, not paying attention to the very minutest details, all because they are not willing. And I think sometimes it has to do with the willingness of the individual to say, I actually want to learn, I actually want to be better. But I mean, if all of that is eroded, I mean, then what's the point? I mean, so you have narrowed it down to character, which is really important. And I really thank you for that point, really. And like Dr. Kabir had said, bringing it down, pruning it down so that the younger ones would actually understand, it was what you just did. You nipped it to the board. And I'm sure that, please give me a thumbs up if you know you're understanding. No, from here. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Are we feeling the conversation? Well done. Well done. Please put your hands together for yourselves. And you too, please put your hands together for yourselves. You're doing well. You're doing very well. Thank you all. Thank you all. Engineer Emeka Iluegunam, you have done an extensive work when it comes to business. You've been in various sectors of the economy, doing business onshore, offshore, and that has given you extensive experience, something you started very early as a young adult. Looking at the room today, we have children from the schools, we have adults, young adults, who are also in the room, willing to understand, the concepts of a young person being in business, being an African, being a Nigerian, and doing it right. Coming from your experience, sir, we'd like you to share what's your own concept of the impact of incivility on youth and business development in Africa. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's in order to also join everyone in saying one or two things regarding the event we are here for today. I do Rotary. I'm a member of Rotary International, and I do youth leadership a lot. So 2 weeks ago, I was in Kaduna in what we call the district leadership seminar, and there was a lot of youths, and I had to represent the district governor in that event. And when I came back, he said, "What's your report?" And I said, "Well, my report is simple. In the youths we have, Rotary has a future." And that was my report. And today, I think I'm going to say that with what Eti and all the young people here are doing today, Nigeria and Africa indeed has a future. And I think it's something worth applauding. Yeah, it's very, very, very germane that we recognize that. But there's something that stands out more, even more to that. It is actually the kind of mentorship that Eti and the colleagues are receiving. This is unique. And we must say the truth. It's easy to come and verbose and pontificate and blame systems and, blow all sorts of grammar, right? But the taste of the pudding is in the eating, right? So if the youths have to, prosper and be who we want them to be, they need to be mentored. And what is mentorship? It's not blowing grammar and walking away. Sorry I'm putting it this way, because I know that everyone has one or two things they want to do today. But I think we need to start getting very, very deliberate about mentoring the youths. So I think it's therefore very proper for me to give it to Eugenia Abu. You seated here and you are, encouraging everyone, and the mother of Eti, you are a unique mother. Thank you so much. I think we need to send a word to all the mothers, that this is what we need to be doing. and Director Orientation Agency, Professor James. I think it's James Komolafe, right? Yes, and everyone, and leaving the big one for last. One of the best things that happened to me today was that I walked into this hall just before His Excellency Ambassador Usman Sariki was introduced to come and give the keynote address. If I had walked away after that address, my capacity would have multiplied by 100-fold today. Thank you so much. It was, I can't remember any time I listened from A to Z. We have what we call an attention span sometimes, but I was hooked onto every word you were saying. It came out so nicely. Thank you so much. It was something else. I hope I'm speaking the mind of everyone here today that kindly make that text available to people like us, please, for reference purposes. Thank you so immensely. All right, thank you. Okay, and the point is about civility and youth development in the business aspect. And again, when I was listening to Prof, the very first thing we need to talk about is, what is civility? Civility is a crucial part of etiquette, isn't it? And what is civility? While I was listening and also researching, I got 4 C's we need to take away from civility. Number 1 is courtesy. Thank you so much. You mentioned it a while ago. The next one is what we call consideration. All right? And then we have another one called camaraderie, which is cordiality. And I think I have one other C that I'm going to remember very soon. But you see, the most important thing is that we need to understand what these things mean. The youth need to be empowered. Unfortunately, what is bedeviling the business development effort of youths, including adults in Africa, and more especially in Nigeria today, are matters of incivility. And my dear friends and fellow citizens, when we talk about incivility, let's not just talk about when people are shouting or whatever. It's also about the systemic issues that define who we are. So when you don't have a very good supportive system to even venture into business development, that is incivility. When you have multiple taxation in a system that stifles your business, in fact, your idea, you are very afraid of even bringing it out. That is incivility. When you have some people on the way stopping you to say, bring this tax, that one, seize your car, seize everything that concerns you, and nobody cares, that is incivility. When you are not sure you can go to the next meeting and go home safely without being kidnapped on the street, that is incivility. And then when you enter into business agreement with people and you do not honor that agreement, that is incivility. Now, my sister was talking about issues of courtesy and behavior. Do you notice what happens when you go to some small shops and buy some things, and when you give them money to give you change, what do the cashiers normally say? No change, madam, no change. Oh. Is it true there is no change? Most times it's not true. Somebody just wants to change the other person. Okay, so that Naira and dollar did one thing, and prices went up, right? Okay, so the dollar has come down a little bit. How about the prices? Are they down? No, they are not. These are all incivility for me, in so many ways. But the truth is this, that we need to first of all recognize that across the strata of society, incivility is bedeviling us. And I've tried to stratify it right now. So each and every one of us belongs somewhere in the chain I just painted. The question is, what do we need to do about that? 4 things I want to talk about again. The 4 C's in trying to make yourself who you want to be. Because, again, I like all the first panelists, they were wonderful people. You know that, of course, we took a lot of things from them. But you need to ensure that you understand that no matter what happens, you are no longer competing with people from your village or your state or your local government or even Nigeria. The world has become a global village. And when you meet people tomorrow in the United States, you will not be telling them, well, I did not succeed because the local government chairman in my place is corrupt, or because the road was bad. No. You have to do what? Consciously transcend beyond all these normal excuses we give ourselves. And what do I want to leave us with here today? 4 C's. Number 1 is what I call capacity. Capacity is everything. That is the truth. And I hope that the youth, I'm speaking now, I'm being youth-centric. All right? Capacity is very important. You cannot achieve much without having capacity. Most times a youth will come out and say, please help me. I say, okay, what can you do? He say, I can do anything. So first of all, I say, go home and think again. There must be something you say, this is what I'm good at. And how do you know what you are good at? Think about your gifts. Think about your talents. All right? Most times when I teach in some churches, I heard my sister say she teaches in churches. I do as well. And I normally also draw from the scriptures, right? It says that a man's gift will do what? Make way for him. You need to think about that first of all. Because I don't know what to do. If I had money to go to school, I hear all these kind of things. I say, what is your gift? Can you try to refine it a little bit and start earning money from it? It can actually make you who you want to be. The next thing is to be diligent. He says, see thou a man who is diligent in his ways. What happens? He will stand before kings. These ones depend on me. My talent, my gift, my diligence depend on me before I start blaming the government. These ones depend on me. Can you fix those ones first and then come out? So that's about capacity. I used to tell people that I love my son so much. All right? You know, when he was 8 years old, I love him so much. There is nothing I cannot do for him. And I say it truly. There's nothing I cannot do for my son. But I have one 2010, or is it 2006 Range Rover, you know, very old, right, in my house. Because I love my son so much, I have never one day come out from my house and say, son, I love you so much. Take the key and drive yourself to school. What I'm trying to say is that no matter how the system loves you, no matter how you love yourself, no matter how your father loves you, there are things you cannot get except you build your capacity. So it's very important. Then the next thing I want to talk about is character. I don't want to talk too much about it because I had character here already. Character is who you are. When Dr. Ezekwesili was talking about one of the attributes she talked about, relational capabilities. How do you relate with people? Is attitude. Attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. You may be the best pilot, the best engineer, the best doctor, and so on and so forth. Without a good attitude, nothing is going to happen. That's about character. It's very, very important. And then the other one I talk about is competence. Now, you need to ask yourself, what am I competent in? This is critical. Opportunities in those days, they tell us come but once. I don't know whether that is the truth these days, but sometimes opportunities knock, and you need to be what? Ready. One of the things that must not happen to you is that opportunity comes when you are not ready. And what do you need to do to be ready? Build your competence. What is competence? It is not just book knowledge. It is putting what you know into practice. So competence means what? Knowledge plus what? Experience. Try to gather experience. And someone asks me, how do I get experience when they don't give me job, employment? I say, no, go and volunteer somewhere. If you show people that you can do it, I can assure you before you know it, either the person takes you up or refers you to other people. So my fellow youths, I can tell you the truth. You can build your experience without getting employment. It is possible. Volunteer. If you add value because you have good character, the person will definitely do something. Now, that distinct, I just want to leave us. I think I mentioned the three C's, capacity, competence, and character. The other one is what? Connection. Please, you cannot be an island. Move out, relate to people. That's why a conference of this nature is extremely important for people to come around. I didn't see anybody stopping anybody at the gate saying pay money before you enter. I was surprised about that, which is very good, by the way. So kudos to the organizers. How I wish that all the youths who are out there whiling away their time, not doing anything, are here today taking very good learning. So these are the things I'm going to leave for us for now. So these are about incivility and civility coming from within. I know there are a lot of systemic issues we can talk about, seriously speaking, but the truth is this. If we want to start complaining, you will end up complaining till thy kingdom come. What I teach is, please look inwards, introspection. What can you do for yourself first? And then the system will come up. All the issues of characters, we need to mold the youth character so much. I was in Kigali. I checked into the hotel. The waitresses and everybody were so jovial. They were so cheerful, helping to do it. So I went into my room. the drain in the bedroom was not working very well. It was the receptionist. Say, hold on a second, hold on a second. He went and brought something, rushed in, pumped it, and the thing started working. But you know here what is going to happen. The receptionist will say, let me go and call the plumber. And then they will call the plumber and say he's at home. His phone is not going through, and so on and so forth. So all these things we need to talk about. So back to your question now, incivility is really bedeviling business development among youth in Africa. And one of the things we can do is what we are doing today, hoping that it goes a long way to shaping what we do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Iloegbonam. You did talk about mentoring, that we all need to be mentored. And we can't actually undermine the effect, the impact of good mentoring. Sure. Talked about courtesy, that's the 4 C's: courtesy, camaraderie, consideration, and competence. You also hinged on character, very important. And you did give trickles. You gave trickles of how incivility has thrived in Nigeria, and the instances which you did say that if we actually searched within, we all fall into one of these categories. So it's important that we understand that our actions, as small as our very insignificant actions, do mean a lot and speaks to us as an individual. You talked about systemic issues that actually define who we are, and you're not very far-fetched. You talked about building capacity, and you emphasized volunteering, which is really important. I think we can't say just a lot on how impactful and useful volunteering is. I refer myself as an ardent volunteer, and I still volunteer till now. So, I mean, that's one way to build capacity. Very important. And we must say that even as young people now, if you need to apply for anything international or even local, they ask for volunteering experience. Yeah, they want to see what you do beyond your work, beyond your working hours, how you build your own competence in an area you find interesting. So it's important that you find that area and volunteer. We have an array of NGOs in Abuja that actually take a lot of volunteers. Thank you very much, Engineer Iloegbonam. That was very impactful. We go on to Daniel Black, who is the national coordinator of YALI, which is one of the biggest, if not it's actually the biggest youth organization in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And he leads the Nigeria contingent of it. Well done, Daniel Black. I know you've done a lot around youth development, which you're still doing. And you're also very fast-paced when it comes to sustainable agriculture. Now, circling back to youth development quickly. I know some time ago, when Daniel Black took on the reins of leadership of YALI Nigeria, he made a switch. In inviting young people to come for meetings, he told them they had to dress formally and be well-dressed. He said you can't wear T-shirts and jeans and come for meetings. You have to represent who you are. You have to you have to define yourself. And it circles back to what Engineer Iloegbonam talked about, the systematic issues, defining who you are. And I remember asking him, why are you putting those conditions? He said, see, you have people come and they will have to be endeared to what they see. When they see young people well-dressed, behaving well, and then they actually understanding the leadership they are breeding. And that really struck me as an individual. So today, we want you to share that insight on youth development, looking at the concept of incivility, on youth development, youth leadership, and sustainable agriculture, knowing that you have a very powerful niche in that. We want to share that as a young person. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Baide. You just brought back memories, and I did not know you took note of that. I want to say thank you to all the panelists. They've done justice to the topic. And even at the risk of sounding repetitive, I want to thank the organizers of this event. And I like the name, Etiquette Africa. I'm coming somewhere with that, Etiquette Africa, because we live in a very dicey generation and time where the boundaries of morals have been shifted. It's a very blurry line right now. And you have young people telling you, it's my body, I do as I deem fit. You have people telling you, religion, it's my choice. They feel it's their right to question authority, question everything that, and then once you don't give them a logical example, a logical answer, they just think it's not right, right? So we live in that times, and somewhere along the lines, civility, the concept of civility has begun to look alien to Nigeria and to Africa. Young people have now felt that it's not our thing, right? And they begin to choose the things they do. Circling back to why I like the name Etiquette Africa, and a quick advice, please, I'd like, because, okay, just before I get to the advice point now, in my research up to coming to this event, I found out that Africa had its own civility system. You go to the Yorubas, they prostrate to greet their elder ones. In all the traditional settings, they have a governance system. They have a dialogue system. I did not find anyone that uses fight, uses chaos as a means of resolving conflict. There is always that governance system. There's always that chief. He has council of elders. He has a youth leader. He has this, he has that. And then whatever conflict comes goes through that process from the family down to the village head and all that. So I dare say that civility has been a critical component of the African system. But our recent romance or bromance with the Western culture, importing values and habits, and we have unfortunately had a very, very far drift from the things we were brought up. So back to my advice. I think it would be a noble project if Etiquette Africa decides to research on some very critical African values that are of African descent, and begin to promote those things. Those things were not just done for show. They had symbolisms. They had their values. For example, in the Igbo culture, in the Yoruba culture, please, I don't think, no matter how enraged you are, if you're prostrating before your elder, no matter how enraged you are, you will not insult. In fact, the way you talk, by just that prostration, will come down. You will have to talk with some degree of respect. But nowadays, when parents and children are standing head to head to talk, there is that possibility for you to want to vent everything that comes to your mind without any form of editing, without any form of checkmating. That being said, so please, let us begin to promote values of African origin. We have a whole lot of them, and if we research and we begin to bring them back, and I bet you the moment you bring them back, even parents will be happy to begin to imbibe them in their family, so it will be an easier job. It's just we need people that will highlight it, bring it back, and people begin to remember. I was at an event recently where some children came and they started singing old folklores. And I saw adults stand up and they were so happy. It brought back memories. And I just knew that by the time we begin to highlight, we have let social media, we have let Western culture begin to erode, and then our pursuit in the pursuit of money, in the pursuit of material things, we've let so many things get eroded. But enough of the blame game. We're talking youth. We're talking agriculture. And like I have mentioned, we are in a very critical time where the lines are very blurry. And we need to begin to rethink what are the boundaries. There was a time when if you were talking to a younger person, for example, Ambassador here, His Excellency, talking to a younger person, and he was on his phone, that would be clear-cut insult, right? But in our times today, he may be on his phone, and if you want to say, oh, sir, I'm on social media, I'm trying to upload what you're saying. And that excuse sounds legit, right? So these blurry lines have allowed young people to go past. All right. I'm privileged to lead Yali Network Nigeria. It's a United States initiative to invest in young leaders. And I have met different type of young people. We're talking about volunteering here. I have met impatient young people who tell you, I want to volunteer. They come to volunteer. And at the end of the day, they're asking you for pay. They are feeling so entitled. So these things I'm buttressing, and especially I'm happy to see very young people here, but I'm sad that they do not even cut 0.01% of the young people in Nigeria. I really wished we had NYSC people here. I really wish we had more young people coming in here, because we really need to begin to talk about these lines. If I'm talking to His Excellency, whether I'm in front of him, whether I am behind a keypad, I should be conscious of the level. I should be conscious of the personality. I should be conscious of our differences. But these lines are not well articulated anymore. And then taking it to agriculture. Anchor borrower scheme, I'm sure most of you know about anchor borrower scheme. I'll put it this way, it failed because of incivility. Why is that? You see a Nigerian, you've gone through the hurdles that CBN put to checkmate, to screen you. You finally get a grant, whether in inputs or in cash. And from day one that you got that grant, you have put it in your mind that I'm not paying back. If you do not pay back, no, it's not that something happened, not that flood came, not that insecurity, nothing happened. From the very first day, I am a farmer. I have interacted with farmers. I'm part of many cooperatives. The very first day, in fact, let's just get this thing. The moment we are getting it, I'm not paying back. That is incivility. That is greed. Yes, we call it national cake. We look at farmers that have been part of many intervention projects. You are able to mop up resources. You share fertilizers to farmers. And a farmer that was telling you, I need to use it in my plantain farm, in my this farm, and his next thought is how to sell it. There and then in the venue, at the venue, say how much is urea? Urea is 45,000. Okay, I'll give you for 20. You get cash. That is incivility. And when these things continue, the programs can't work, no matter how much USAID gives Nigeria, no matter how much CBN pumps into Nigeria. Quite recently, the president made a proclamation where he released about 1 billion worth of maize seeds to farmers. Where are those maize seeds today? They were meant for planting. So 1 billion worth of maize seeds, by rough extrapolation, if all were planted, putting aside natural factors and all, we should have close to 10 billion worth in returns, right? But guess what? 80% of those seeds were sold to poultry farmers to process them for feed. So they were not planted. So that return we are supposed to get is not there. So the government has done its part. Sorry, I'm not a government apologist here, but we are talking civility here. So let's tell ourselves the truth. The government has done its part. Now the people, this seed, you're supposed to use one seed plant, get one cup that probably long or minus gives you 100 cups, right? But no, you've sold it and sold it to people that are feeding chicken. And that one seed has been eaten. So where do we get the 100 cups? So incivility has led to the decline. We are not even at a static point now. We are plunging down in youth, in agriculture. Talking about youth, let me just, sorry, before I head back, let me just, our young people, we've created a glass ceiling for ourselves. We have very few young people involved at very high-level global events like the UN. There is just so much money and all the braggadociousness can do for you. Your dress sense alone will stop you somewhere. The way you talk alone will stop you somewhere. If we must, as young people, go up, expand our horizons, and begin to play at the global spaces, we need to come back and draw these lines. We need to learn how to dress with global contexts. If I want to address the United Nations Council someday, man, ripped jeans will not do it for me. If I must talk at the COP, Council of Climate of Parties, yes, if I must address them someday, I mean, swearing and cursing wouldn't do it for me. I need to learn the art of negotiation. I need to learn the art of dialogue, and that is where civility comes in. No matter how I'm angry at the next person, I need to be able to sit and we are able to bring our points without insults. So, back to my advice. We need to begin to throw more light on African values, African civility values, which helped our fathers stay long, which helped our fathers live in cordiality. So a man grows, has 10 children, and they want to expand. So he just, this first child just picks his family, moves to another settlement. And yes, there were conflicts, that's given, right? But there were systems put in place. There were systems that allowed Nigeria, that allowed Africa to blossom. For my elderly ones here, there was a time when Nigeria was more peaceful. There was a time where a child comes back from school and can eat in another person's house because his mom is not around. Unfortunately, that's not the Nigeria we find ourselves in today. And civility plays a role there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was well loaded, and I like the fact that you had to emphasize that civility has been a critical component of the African system. That's a no-brainer. You've also emphasized the bring back, the turnaround. Let's go back to the roots. Let's learn from what has been, what should be, and what is. Instead of doing the refined culture, we should go back to what has been and perhaps, draw lessons. You also talked about the consciousness of the blurry lines, which is really important. I'm sure that virtually all of us here on social media, our parents now, we get the is it links now? Links to read. If you have your mommy and daddy on your WhatsApp, you're always receiving stories. So everyone is on WhatsApp, is on social media. So the consciousness of the blurry line, very important. And I think that cannot be said enough. We need to emphasize that as much as possible. Also, you have also talked about the fact that development won't work as long as incivility thrives. And of course, I share your sentiments on the ankle bearers issue. I am fully aware, I understand where you're coming from, the nitty-gritties of what took place. And yes, the dishonesty, the lack of honor starts with we Nigerians first. You talked about the fact that instability has led to a plunge, when it comes to youth leadership and development and also agriculture. And finally, you have been able to prune this conversation, dealing it squarely on the fact that it still behoves on we, the individuals. And I think the panelists today, this afternoon, have actually said the same thing. We have cascaded the issues down to the fact that as human beings, as individuals, it behoves on us. And so just to close out this session, in 2 minutes each, or 1 minute, or 30 seconds each, let's allow our dear panelists, just give us a parting charge. We've heard enough today. We are so loaded. So I'll start with Madam Christy Adejo.
Thank you very much. I think it's been a rather engaging time. But essentially, some of the words I'd like to leave behind would, I'll take a bearing from the scripture, the Bible. When I talked about communication, I would want to quote the book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 1, which talks about a soft word turneth away wrath. It turns away anger, but a grievous word can bring on anger. I'm just paraphrasing. So you will see that even the scriptures of most of our faiths will tell us about how to communicate effectively, to stay away from wrath, from anger, because that's what brings dissension, and that's where development cannot take place, growth cannot take place if people do not agree. I'd also like to add that we must make an urgent call for everyone, a multi-sectoral approach to the issue of erasing, or at least reducing maximally, the issue of incivility. Because everyone, just like we all agreed today, is involved. So it has to do with the government, it has to do with even our international partners, it has to do with the students, the young ones, it has to do with parents, just like Eugenia said earlier. It has to be that concerted effort. It's not just the NOA that should do it. It should be everyone. So let's try and make that clarion call. It's an urgent call, really. It's not something that we should just talk here and go home. We must practice when we go home. In our little corners, let's be that shining light. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kabir Adamu.
Okay, just three, I would say, parting shots. Reiterate what I said earlier on. The reason why we are organized as a community, and of course the social contract, it places a lot of emphasis on the government. So I would disagree a little bit with you that it's a responsibility for everyone. If we are, let's be truthful to ourselves. We are not happy where we are as a country. And that's why we're gathered here. And we need to get out of it. And we need the government to support us in getting out of it. Which leads me to my second point. I learned somewhere outside Nigeria an European phrase. It says, trust is good, but control is better. When Yali mentioned the Anchor program, I tried to get that loan, and I know what I went through. If I had gotten that money, there is no way I would have paid. Because 50% of the funds was going back to the same institutions that were going to give me the funds. So what do I mean by trust is good and control is better? We can trust the person that we're giving it to, but we need to put control elements to make sure he pays back. And that is the responsibility of government. And the last point, which is where I align with you, we need to show up. There is a very good book, especially for the young ones. It's about parenting, but it applies to this topic, etiquette. It says the power of showing up. We need to read that book. We need to show up. When we see what is good, it is our responsibility. In my religion, Islam, it tells you to do it in 3 ways. Either with your heart, reject it, or where you can, with your spoken word, speak against it, or lastly, if you have the power, for instance, as a parent, use your hands to correct it. So please, let's show up. What is good, we would know. Anyone here, as long as you have a conscience, if something is happening and it's good, you would know. So let's embrace that power of showing up. Our collective decision as a community, as a people, will determine our future. If we all want this state that we're in, where the moment I start driving out from here until I reach my home, my office, I'm unhappy. It's been pointed out earlier on, you would encounter challenges. So I'm not happy, and most of us are not happy. If we're going to change it, it's the responsibility that all of us have to speak about, so that eventually we have a system in place that starts to correct all of these things that we are rejecting as a people. Otherwise, we're going to remain, unfortunately, in this circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Tola Taiwo Isijola.
Okay, my parting words is empathy. I think the world is becoming, more cold and more self-absorbed. So I would encourage that. Let's be more empathetic to one another. Let's treat ourselves very well, with courtesy, with respect, and with love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Engineer Ilo Egbunam, please.
All right, thank you so much. So my parting shots will be, number one, I agree that a lot of things have gone wrong in the past, and the fact that most of us who are adults who've been there did a lot of things wrong. So we really need to show people what we did wrong. It's called storytelling. It doesn't mean even if you call it self-indictment, it doesn't matter. But tell stories that let people know that, look, this is not the best way to go, and that's the best way to go. I think we need to consciously do that. Eugenia Abu talked about cross-conversation, which was supported by some other people in the first panel. So the environment shapes the youth. So we don't have to just blame the youth only. We've talked about a lot of things about the youth, and totally agree with all those things, but the environment also shapes the youth, and we create the environment. The environment consists of the political, the environment, the legal, the technological, everything is subsumed in pestle, if most of us know what pestle means here. So it's very, very important that we do that. Then back to the youths. I totally agree as well. Please don't dwell in the place of excuses, self-pity. It will not work. It doesn't matter. So there is no time the environment will be perfect. It is not possible. So please introspect. Look back inwards. What is it you can do? Go ahead and start doing it. Build your 4 C's, your character, your competence, your network, and so on and so forth. Go ahead and build it. It will help you when the time comes. And thanks again to the organizers of this event. And just like what my friend said here, I also think there are ways to even help to make sure that the collaboration that can come out of this can touch a lot more youths, and we can always discuss that and see how that happens, because we need to be solution-centric, not just complaining. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Daniel Black.
All right, thank you. So, yes, I just want to come from the youth angle. Please, very little work has been done or is being done in the aspect of values and etiquette and civility. I want to call on Etiquette Africa and similar organizations. Please, we need people to draw the lines. Young people are just learning from everywhere and anywhere. There is no reference point. There's no dictionary that is telling you this is the exact expectation. So we need people that will actually do the research, look at these blurry lines and look at the acceptable standards and begin to say this is what is expected. That's mine. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing panel session. I have personally learned a lot, and I'm sure that everyone here as well has taken something home. Looking at the pattern shot, it's an urgent call to everybody. Trust is good, but control is better. The Power of Showing Up. It's a book by Tina Payne and one Mr. Siegel. So, I mean, we can all research the title and see where to get the book. The Power of Showing Up. You know, empathy. Have empathy. Tell stories. No excuses. No excuses. We have to show up. No excuses. And of course, we should be solution-centric. And so we have an array of issues. We can spell out all our issues all day long, but we have to be solution-centric. And that's why, I mean, conversations like this on what to do and how to go about it, you know, are very important. And of course, learn how to draw the lines. Very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, the vision of the AU Agenda 2063 is very clear. A prosperous, united Africa, whose sustainable development is very key, very firm, and will take us by 2063. The conversations here have been mainly about young people. You hear that young people, youth. And that's because some of the adults in this room won't be here by 2063. So we'll be here by 2063 by His grace. And so by 2063, what would we say we have done by 2063? So it's very simple. And how do we drive that home? How do we drive that point home? How do we achieve the SDGs 2030? The circle of incivility must stop. Let's circle back to civility. And that's the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ebaide Queen. Please, I would love the panelists to stay on. Please sit. I would want us to take comments and questions from this audience. You could direct your question to a particular member of the panel. Mrs. Eugenia Abu is still here. Maybe when she was speaking, you had questions. You could do it now. So, the first set of hands will be what will be considered. Students, I expect a lot of questions from you.
We have one question here.
Okay, we have one here. Sorry, hold on, my microphone is coming. Yeah, comments and questions are allowed. Contributions generally.
Okay, I will do both. Observations too. It's allowed, yes. I'm very, very happy to be here today, I must say. I've learned a lot. My field is also ethics and values, so I've learned a lot. Starting from His Excellency, the Ambassador. I've learned so much from our big sister, Mrs. Abu. Thank you so much. All the other panels, Mr. Linus, all the people that spoke, they spoke very, very well. And all of you here. I don't know how to say thank you. I think you're doing very well. You surely will collaborate with NOA. But I want to say that you said that NOA is up to something. Yes, we're up to something. We have just released National Value Charter, which is citizens' responsibility to the nation and nation's responsibility to the citizens. We have not launched it yet, so I can't really say much about it. I will just have to wait a little. When we launch it, then we'll be able to talk about this conversation that we're having now. I will also say that our problem in Nigeria, just like Dr. Urebunam said, is systemic. It's systemic as it's endemic as well. When we came here, we said we're going to start at 10. I came here, His Excellency, former governor of Akwa Ibom State was here. Obon Victor was here. His Excellency was here. And I looked at the time. I was here 15 minutes to 10. We didn't start at that time. We had to wait for some special individuals to come before we start. Why is that? We have to live by example. If we have to be a leader, we have to live by example. I had a certain Director General then, Mr. Mike Omeri, if we have a program in the office or elsewhere, wherever we have that program, he will be there 30 minutes to the time, and we walk into the hall 15 minutes to the time. Who born you? Who are you not to be there when the Director General has walked in? I expect now that we should begin to practice that. She says something about being global. You're going to work with global people. You're not going to work with Nigerian time or African time. What we do in Nigeria usually, we say, okay, will you see me tomorrow? Dr. Robina, will you see me tomorrow? He said, well, by the grace of God, or inshallah, I will be there. No, you're not being certain. I'll be there tomorrow by 10. That's a buffer zone to say, you said, but I didn't promise now. Did I give my word I was going to be there? I just said by the grace of God. That's the buffer zone in Nigeria. It's about time that this should stop. If we say, yes, I'll be there. Yes, if I want to start a program by 10, let's start by 10. Whoever is there. Okay, another one I also say that some people have made they are given their speech and they left. That's civility. You stayed back to listen to them and they couldn't stay back to listen to you. That's why I say it's systemic and endemic. If you want to honor Miss Eti for this program, you should be able to make out this day to be here. Listen to other speakers and the other speakers listen to you. That's how we build a great nation. Not to, oh, I've given my speech and I walk away. No. Something else I observed when she was speaking, I said that this girl has been wanting to talk to the mom, and the mom will not give time. The mom will not give time. At the end of 3 days, the woman says she should write it down and put it beside there on the table. That is not nice. Parents should listen to their children. They should make out time to their children. I tell you an experience I had. I had a son that was in school here in Abuja, and they were bullying the boy. He told me that this particular day, we came for visiting there, he told me this particular day he slept under the bare floor with a senior lying on the bed while he's under. And he told me when I came to school. So I went to approach the school authority that, do you know that bullying is going on in this school? This is what is happening. And one day again, he already told me that somebody puts marijuana in his Coke. And so he refused to drink it. They say if he don't drink it, they will beat him. He didn't drink it. He waited. When I came, he told me, so I approached the school authority that this is what happened. That I thought your school is safe. Why would my child sleep under the bunk when somebody is sleeping on top of the bunk? Do you know what happened? When I left, the school called my son. Why is he tell Naira bones? Why do you have to tell your mom? You don't have to tell your mom. He said, you're a man. You should be a man. It's not everything you tell your mother. And of course, the boy went to the house and I said, Mom, I want to see you. I went back to the school. I said, what happened? He said, everybody in the school were now blaming him. They were trying to stigmatizing the boy, making him lose his self-esteem. I said, that's not going to happen under my watch. I told his father. His father said, go ahead, do what you want to do. And of course, I pulled my son out of that school. I don't want to mention the school. But I pulled my son out of that school so that peace will reign. So the question I want to ask now, how do we checkmate schools to avoid bullying? We have just heard about this little British own that made round. And I said it's a reflection of the society. When a parent who in front of a child talk down to people, jump queue, beat traffic lights, and it's okay. And the child is in the car watching. Just like Mr. Abu said, he said, they don't listen to what you say. They observe what you do. As young as they are, they're observing what we are doing. So if they observe what you do, obviously, they will repeat what you do, not what you say. They're not hearing what you're saying. So how do we checkmate these schools to make sure? There's a pity that the Minister of Women Affairs has left. So they can also talk to the Minister of Education. They will talk about their students and know how they're going to resolve this issue. Another observation I have, sustainability. After today now, because we like to speak English in Nigeria, a lot. We'll sit down here, speak all this English is so good and everything. How do we sustain it and make sure that this program progress? And by the way, please, the organizers of this program, I hope that the children have eaten because they've been here since morning. Where are the organizers of the program? I hope they have given them something to eat because they've been here since morning. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone who has any response? Because I think everything she said was quite well understood. But quickly, I just want... Okay.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add, I am so excited about the concept of the Nigerian Values Charter. But please, I want to advise, because recently our governments have been doling out things and it looks like they are not in sync with the reality of the day. Please, I really, really want to ask, let there be in-depth research. Let us not bring values that are not in sync or relatable with the average Nigerian. And then secondly, one of the major challenges you would face in churning out that charter is when you say what are the responsibilities of the citizens to the government, then you now say what are the responsibilities of government to the citizens. Has government done their part? So I want to say that in churning out, that's a very, very fantastic one, and I really, really want to partner with NOA. We have a network of over 15,000 young people in Abuja only and across Nigeria, and it's a value that I think I'd love to adopt to see how we can promote and ensure that young people begin to imbibe the values, the factor of values. But please, let there be in-depth and real-time research. Let there be street-wise research to sync whatever values that are being propagated to identify with the average Nigerian youth. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, but very quickly, I want to make a response to what she said. In particular, we're not waiting for some special person. We're not waiting for some special person. Please, ma, I'll come to you, ma. We're not waiting for any special person. We just wanted to have a sizable number. Now, while we hope to make progress with regards to etiquette, and I like all the things you highlighted, some person coming late and leaving the moment they are done speaking, the idea was to just have a sizable number, and then we hope that through time, taking baby steps, people will learn to understand that the era of African time has been abolished, because we were ready even before 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for your observation. Please, I had a hand from Mrs. Eugenia Abu. All right, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, would like to really thank the ambassador, my friend and brother, for staying through. I think it is civil to come in and be the keynote and still be here at this time. The day is fast spent. I'd also like to congratulate the panelists. Absolutely stellar. The contributions were incredible, and the moderator picked out the highlights and repeated them for us to hold them dear. Every single speaker on this panel has been phenomenal, and I really would like to thank you. I would like to respond to my sister concerning bullying. And the reason why I've stood up to speak is that there are parents here and there are some children here. It's a difficult time we live in Nigeria, where bullying has become the order of the day in secondary schools. Some children are too quiet to speak about it, are too afraid to speak about it. I've had 2 children bullied. So I know. One of them stopped talking for a while. She simply just would not be where the family is downstairs, and they almost destroyed my daughter. And these are young people, 13, 12, who have imbibed wickedness from home or picked it up on the street and are practicing it on their classmates and their juniors in schools. What you must observe in some homes is that the driver in the house is spoken to anyhow. My driver to my children is Mr. Columbus. He's older than you. You cannot just walk up to him and call him by his name. People who work with you, you have to pull your children so that they do not begin to bully the workers of their parents and take it to school. Your children must not necessarily be given everything they want. Sometimes it's what they need, not what they want. I'll give a quick example of a young student at the University of Lagos who was shy, and we all know, we think it's only women who need help. Young men have difficulties sometimes in approaching a woman. And so you have young people, 24, 25, 26, afraid to talk to girls. And this young man was like that. Then he was invited to a party by the hottest girl in the school, University of Lagos, and he showed up. Son of a single mother. And when he showed up, they were shocked that he came because they considered him just random. And the girl asked him when he was going. Are you going? He said yes. And she escorted him. And they said, this stupid boy is the one the girl is escorting. She's so hot, it's not important. Then they started trolling him online. Even the clothes you wore was from Bend Down Select. You didn't have the locals who told you can talk to this hot girl. In fact, she's my girlfriend. He locked himself in the room. Every day his mother would beg him, come out and eat. He took his life. He took his life because bullying, we take it for granted in Nigeria. A school that has a child that bullies, the child must pay the consequences. I don't care whether you have to put him in one place where he goes and learns how to behave. You have your children in your home bullying your driver, bullying your cook, bullying the house girl. You say nothing. They get to school and believe that's how they should treat other people. That young University of Lagos student, 23, he took his life because of the abuse online. Therefore, a lot of schools today, madam, open schools because they want to make money. They really don't care what's going on in the school. When you report, when I reported to my children's school that my daughter was being bullied, they said, and that's our best teacher. I pulled my child out of the school. But schools must be held accountable. I rest.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, please, there is a hand there. I want at least 2 hands from the student. Who's going first?
Sorry. Did you enjoy the session? Give me a thumbs up if you did. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you enjoy the session? So please, ask us questions.
Or tell us something. Get ready, please. Please, sir, let's have you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Permit me if my speech doesn't turn out so eloquent. It takes a lot of courage to follow up after such immense and profound contributions from everyone who has spoken earlier. I would just love to draw our attention and to first of all commend Etiquette and every single person who has been involved in putting this amazing event together. I would love for us to take a moment to understand the significance of what we are doing here today. In order to be able to forge the kind of future that we desire, to turn this lofty dream of Nigeria and Africa into a reality, it takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work. And while talk is very cheap, it requires taking responsibility and not pointing at someone else to making our dreams come true. And today, I would say Etiquette is an embodiment of the conviction that she has and the belief that this country and this very continent can actually be greater than it already is. What I would love for us to do moving forward is for each and every one of us to take up this responsibility personally. While we want to change the world, it starts from changing the world around us. We have so many gifts and so many abilities, and for Etiquette, I congratulate her on having recognized our own path in playing the quota to making the nation and the continent a greater place. So most especially, the reason why I'm making this comment is for the young people who are here. I wish when I was younger, someone had brought it to my attention even earlier before I realized it. But I would be for you who I had hoped was there for me. From a very young age right now, you need to imbibe the mindset of what it is that you can add to the world. You all have different gifts, different abilities, and you're discovering it one step at a time. But from this moment on, you need to start thinking, how do you want to impact the world? You need to start thinking, what value do you want to bring to the world? Because it's only in serving that you can find true greatness. So allow me once more to thank every single person who has made it here today. I believe this is the path to making a greater nation. This is the start. And just to make a quick comment about sustainability, like my wonderful aunt over there mentioned, I believe we need to really make it easier to collaborate with one another. We are all in different fields, all in different paths of life, making to make a difference. Interconnection in making the world a better place should be easier amongst us. I know one has to be very intentional to go out there and look for like-minded people who are trying to do something. But I think also we should be more intentional with creating a platform. I'm very happy about what Mr. Daniel mentioned earlier about having a legion of young people who are ready to take on the world and do amazing things. But I think we should go beyond just individuals. We should expand it to both organizations, both nationally and internationally, because only together can we actually make a greater world. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we have a hand from a student. Okay, let's go to the student, and then we would come to Dr. Kumalafe later. Is there any other hand, or we'll close with Dr. Kumalafe?
Sorry,
Good morning,
excuse
the
me.
panelists.
Sorry, 1 minute. Please, before we proceed, Madam Taiwo Isijola will have to take her leave. And Dr. Kabir. They are pressed for time, and they have been seated here, please. If we would oblige them.
Please.
Thank you.
They're quite excused, thank you. But very quickly, please, before the student, I would beg that please, before you leave, go through that door. There is an exhibition out there, so you can just look through. Something might catch your attention, please. Please go ahead.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Sir, I have a question concerning the civility. How does mental health affect civility?
Please, who is taking that? Okay, please bring a microphone here, and then right after that, sir, you make your contribution. Okay.
Thank you so very much, son. That's what brought me here. By the grace of God, I trained mental health experts from 102 countries to showcase how that your mental health is actually the real issue. Not just about talking it, but you having to find your balance as an individual. How does mental health affect civility? There is no civility when you are not good upstairs. You think the opposite, you feel the opposite, you do the opposite when you are mentally not sound. Now, it is in Africa and Nigeria especially, anytime you hear mental, you hear people say, I reject it, not my portion. Man is emotional. Man is physical. Man is mental. And man is spiritual. So your mental health talks about your capacity to be in charge of your mind, your will, your reasoning capacity, the ability to study, retain, maintain, and use it profitably is the mental health. Mental health is about the state of your mind. So when your mind is not in a good status, you cannot understand and practice civility, and then the tendency to always behave from the bad and the ugly note will always surface. Every day in mental health is a behavioral variable where you do the good, you think the good, you feel the good. That is when you are in definition. Then every day is also for the bad, where out of your own personal will and volition, you can choose to violate yourself by turning off from who you are in your original sense. And these are all issues about your mental health. That's why when I was delivering during my session, I told everybody to do the hand like this. Maybe we should do it one more time, students, children. When I am good neck up, can you say it after me? Then I will be good neck down. And when I am good neck down, I will be great leg forward. Now, as I round up on that, the question you need to ask me is, what is in the neck up for which I have to be good at? Neck up, the eyes, how I see it and interpret it. The ears, how I hear it and interpret it. The nose, how I smell it. The brain, how I think it and interpret it. And you see, anything from here up is mental. So when I said you are mental, it doesn't mean you are mentally sick or you are mad. No. So when you grow your mental life, the capacity of your mind to coordinate, the capacity of your mind to know, to learn, to understand, to keep, to memorize, to meditate, and to play it out, then you can think well, feel well, talk well. When you are taught anything to easily do it, becomes very simple. And in so doing, you can easily acknowledge, appreciate, and accommodate sane learning for which civility comes out of it. Do you understand? Now, my submission, why I raised hand. When Madam raised those issues and the issue of bully was said, it just dawned on me that by the grace of God, where Cyber Resources, my team members are here, some of my team members, we are going to work in collaboration with Etiquette Africa to donate to every school that is represented in this program a fundamental juvenile framework that will profile every student in 3 cascades. First, we'll profile their value content and bring it out in lucid light. Secondly, we'll profile their virtues. Thank you for reminding me. It's good to have good mentees. Their virtues. And then we'll profile their vices. Every child and every human being has these 3. Now, your capacity to tilt to any is a behavioral issue. So, by the time we build that framework, we crash the vices, we'll pull up the value, and then build in the virtues, the child becomes okay. The issue of bullying will no longer come in there. So, Eti, we're going to work with you over this by the grace of God.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So to wrap everything up, I think Engineer Lebunam, just wrap up the final session so that we call it an end to the panel.
So thank you so much. And I think everything that needs to be said has been said. I just wanted to say something regarding the bullying thing. Let me just drop it. You know, one thing that really works, the regulation is very important. And regulation happens in 3 levels. First of all, there's what we call self-regulation. And then you have what we call peer regulation. And then you have external regulation, which is governmental in this case. I think that the schools, the idea of the PTA, the Parents Teachers Association, what it used to be while I was in school, I don't know if you remember what it was when you were in school. It needs to come back. It's not where parents go to show cars. It's not where they go to show affluence. It's where they know what is going on. The teachers and headmasters and principals fret and shake when PTA people come around. That's what I'm used to, because I used to be senior prefect, this and that, so I know what was going on. That's actually what is important. The profiling is going to be very wonderful, even though it's going to have a lot of challenges because people want to say my privacy, and so on and so forth. PTA. Parents need to be very decisive. Today, I don't go to PTA anymore. I'm confessing. But you know why I don't go? Seriously speaking, my car is bigger than your own. Or your house, you live in Metama, I live in Apo, and so on and so forth. That's what happens there. And people come to push their own children. Sorry, I'm going too far, but I think this is very important. People come to, my child will overdo your own child because he has 4 A's and so on and so forth. That's what is going on. And nobody is caring about the real systemic issues in the schools. That's the work of the PTA. Okay, sorry I digressed there, but it was hitting in my head and I think it's very, very important. So for me, I already said something. I play big in Rotary International, and one of the things we do in Rotary International is also to shape humanity using the 4-way test. And if you know the 4-way test, my friend Christy knows it very, very well. Very, very, very well. She can remind us of that. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship, civility? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Those are the 4-way tests. What Etiquette Africa is doing here today is just in consonance with that. So I see a very good platform for collaboration. And having been here today, I will lend myself to engineering that collaboration, and it's going to be very wonderful. Let's go home and be good citizens and be civil. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ebaide Queen. Thank you for all your contributions. I mean the panelists. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause as they return to their seat. Very quickly, please, media, let's have contributions from etiquette experts out of Africa. Short videos, please. Very quickly.
Hello, everyone. Imagine this. You're walking through the bustling streets of Lagos. The energy is electric. But then someone cuts you off without an apology, throws trash on the ground. It puts a damper on the whole vibe, right? That's what incivility does, not just to our modes, but to Africa's entire progress. Today, let's talk about how a little kindness can go a long way. We all know that being rude is annoying, but it's actually a big deal for Africa's development. Think about it. At work, when people are nasty to each other, nobody gets anything done. Innovation takes a nosedive. People quit left and right. It's a mess. In our communities, a lack of respect breeds mistrust, like a bad apple spoiling the whole bunch. But here's the good news. Manners matter. Etiquette matters. By showing some etiquette in different parts of Africa's economy, we can unlock a treasure chest of opportunities. Imagine marketplaces where everyone treats each other with respect. Deals are made with a handshake and a smile. That's an environment where businesses thrive and money flows. The same goes for politics. When leaders talk to each other like grown-ups, listen to different viewpoints, and citizens participate without resorting to insults, amazing things can happen. Progress becomes unstoppable. In our schools, teaching kids about respect, empathy, and good manners doesn't just make them nicer people, it equips them to be the future generation of African leaders. Leaders who can build a brighter future for everyone. Look, being civil isn't always easy. There will be bumps along the road, but the rewards, they are incredible. Africa has so much potential, and by embracing kindness and respect, we can unlock it all. Imagine a future where everyone treats each other with dignity, where Africa's development rises to new heights. That's the future we can build together. So let's make a commitment right here, right now, to be the generation that brings civility back to Africa. Let's make kindness the norm and watch Africa reach its full potential. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That was Dr. Mighty Utauma.
I'm honored to be joining you virtually all the way from Mauritius. Hello, Africans, brothers and sisters, greetings. I'm honored to be joining you virtually all the way from Mauritius for the first edition of the Etiquette Africa Conference. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers, especially my dear friend Etiquette, for your outstanding efforts in putting together this conference. The effects of incivility on Africa's development. What an exceptionally relevant theme. Africans understand the extent to which incivility can become a danger if it is not addressed properly. Experts predict that we may expect to see a decreased productivity, harm to business relationships, brain drain, negative impact on mental health, impaired education, decreased trust and social cohesion. All this can hurt the economy by scaring away foreign investors and slowing down growth. But wisdom and guidance are there. They have always been there. They were given free. Whichever country we hail from, we have all grown up to our own traditional tales that culminate with formidable wisdom and lessons. In Cameroon, they have the story of the magic board. This story showcases the value of honesty and integrity. The talking skull, a tale in Ghana, warns against the consequences of disrespect and greed. In Burkina Faso, the wise woman of the Gulma Kingdom underlines the significance of respect and the wisdom gained through listening. In Zimbabwe, the hospitality of the king is a tale that highlights the value of hospitality, kindness, and respect for strangers. In Nigeria, don't you have While the Sun and the Moon Live in the Sky? This story teaches the importance of respect and humility. Every single country in Africa has abundant tales that educate us on the importance of upholding civility, manners, and empathy in our interactions with others. But it is also a fact that since colonial days, the introduction of Western education has inevitably contributed to the erosion of traditional African stories and cultures. African tales and folklore have been losing prominence, and many have eventually been forgotten. As we gather here today to discuss the effects of the lack of civility on Africa's development, I urge each and every one of you to think about the actions you will take today that you will be proud of 5 years from now. So I invite Etiquette Africa and all of you gathered for this conference to consider the idea of a pan-African collection of tales, traditional stories, and legends with powerful life and etiquette lessons. By teaming history and training efforts, we can definitely set the foundation for a smoother transition towards a higher level of civility. The truth is that Africa will rise to its goals not by chance, but by the systems we put in place, the habits that we cultivate, and the choices that we make each and every day. So, as you engage in discussions about the impact of civility on Africa's development, I wish and I pray that we are all guided by the wisdom of the past, the lessons of the present, and the dreams of the future. Thank you very much for your attention, and God bless Africa.
All right, thank you, Javed. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the maiden edition. And of course, we could find that the allotted time wasn't even enough for us to discuss all we should have discussed. Talking about sustainability, we hope to build from here, and going forward, it would be from bound to bound. My name is Jolly Edem. It was my delight being your MC. There is an exhibition outside, and right after that, you just proceed to lunch. From here, it is good evening. Thank you so much.